This Soonerscoop.com video is streaming in crystal clear 4K resolution on YouTube thanks to Enjoy Vision in Oklahoma City. Don't miss a moment on or off the field. Make every day a highlight with LASIK at Enjoy Vision. Enjoy Vision. This is where Sooner Scoop LASIK.
This commitment isn't just my decision. It's a testament to all the people who had poured into my life. I am excited to embrace the challenge ahead to learn more from this game and to contribute any way I can to this team's success. I'm not just joining a program, I'm joining a family. And I'm ready to give my all to make this my home and bring a national championship to the city of Norman. You know, they have great coaches, coaches that I've been talking to since I was in 8th grade, and just a great playing style. They match how I want to play. I want to play fast, and that's why I chose it.
Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here, and as you saw there, and I guess as the country saw on Tuesday afternoon, the number one player in the country, Aaliyah Chavez, announces her commitment to Jennie Baranczyk in the Oklahoma basketball program, Gatorade National Player of the Year. Basically, any high school accolade that you could accomplish as a high school basketball player, Aaliyah Chavez has, she's done. She's accomplished it. The number one player in the country, a truly kind of monumental day for the OU women's basketball program. A monumental 24 hours for Jennie Baranczyk, having Oklahoma just wrapped up a 96-62 victory over Iowa on Monday. We did the instant reaction over the Lloyd Noble Center, and man, what a 24 hours it's been for Jennie Baranczyk.
Yeah, I mean, just the OU women's basketball program. I mean, you talk about having some real momentum these last 24 hours. She's done a heck of a job. Obviously, you know, building this program into one that can make the Sweet 16. We'll see how far this group can go. But then to be able to recruit and land a player like this, and we'll get into it, but I mean, this is the type of player that can really change your program. You go from being a very good program, a team that could make the Sweet 16, to potentially competing for Final Fours and national championships with a player like Chavez.
Truly bewildering. And when we're talking about, you know, I in and of itself, I think, and I was going to say this yesterday on the instant reaction, but I think just maybe a sign of how things are changing under Jennie Baranczyk is just like simply us being there, if I'm being completely honest about it. And very exciting news that I want to get into. We'll talk about here what kind of recruitment this was, everything that in between, and especially when you start looking at 2026 or 2025 into next season, it's going to be kind of exciting here for Jennie Baranczyk and friends. But first, let us tell you about our good friends over at Roback, RHOBACK.com. If you were interested in getting a pullover like the great Georgie boy has, all you got to do is go to Roback.com and use the promo code Sooner20 for 20% off. That includes everything, the everyday shorts, the Delta Performance Pants, that I still need to get the golf shorts as well, because they look extremely comfortable, and it's about to be golf season as well here as we get about a month away from, less than a month away from the start of the Masters. George, you like all your Roback stuff, don't you?
I love Roback. I wear it almost every single day now. So I have this and a couple hoodies as well as like 100 polos. So.
Very good. I don't know if that's a little bit of a lie, but we're going to go with it here for this promo. All you got to do is go to Roback.com, Sooner20 if you want 20% off. There we go. Right there. I like the hoodie, too, with the OU logo on it as well. Aaliyah Chavez, obviously, this is something that has been, I think building in momentum here over the last couple of weeks, and certainly reached maybe a little bit of a peak on Saturday in the opening round game against Florida Gulf Coast. You wrote the story. You had talked to Aaliyah Chavez, maybe just her presence being in Norman, maybe a little bit of a sign of what direction she was going to go. But to get this commitment, George, it seems like this has been a long time coming for Jennie Baranczyk.
Look, Jennie has been recruiting her since she was in middle school. Since she first arrived at Oklahoma, she's been recruiting Chavez. And so the job she's done over that time, says a lot. But this goes back, about 9 months ago, it was long thought that Texas, South Carolina, LSU, those were the three schools that everybody's like, oh, she's going to go to one of those three. And those are the three kind of powerhouses. You could add UConn into that mix, even though I don't think UConn was really in this race. But those three schools were long considered to be the favorites. And then it turned into, hey, Texas is probably going to get her. Texas, obviously being in Austin, close to Lubbock. Texas Tech was also in the mix. They threw a lot of money at her, the Double Eagle boys, obviously. But it was thought, just a couple weeks ago, there was a lot of predictions coming in for her to choose Texas. And she had visited Texas, I think, for their last game of the season in Austin. And that was kind of when, okay, she's probably going to end up being a Longhorn.
Sure.
And they were throwing a lot of money at her. But the job that Jennie Baranczyk has done building a very strong relationship with not only her, but her family to get her to come to Norman on Saturday for the NCAA tournament game, I think was huge. And to see the turnout from the fan base, the way Oklahoma played, and she'd visited OU before, I think that Chavez really fell in love with not only Jennie as the coach, but what she does offensively, the system that they run. We'll get into her stats in high school, but this is a player that can really fill it up. She loves to shoot the three ball. She loves to play fast, and that's exactly the way that Oklahoma plays. And then I think that OU just did a really good job of putting together a strong NIL package. The Jordan brand, from my understanding.
So Pete Dacos had put it out there. You'd reported as well on the Crimson Quarter. You could join for $1. Not a bad time to be doing so here with spring football wrapping up. Getting back underway today. We'll be out there. We'll have a report, maybe even talking to Brent Venables. I had to get the football talk in. But Jordan Brand has been a big player in this, and certainly I think somebody like a Trey Young probably.
Yeah, I think Trey Young had reached out to her. I know Trey's dad as well was sort of involved, and him being a Lubbock guy, and he played at Texas Tech, right,
yeah.
Rayford? So I think that he was, involved a little bit. Everybody was involved, but Jordan Brand especially, it sounds like, stepped up. I would not be surprised if Chavez has a Jordan Brand shoe deal in the works.
It's crazy.
So I think that helped Oklahoma out, but I think it was also, Eddie, just the relationship. When I talked to Aaliyah on Saturday, she talked a lot about Jennie and the style of play and just the culture that she's built at OU, believing that this is a program that can compete for national titles, that they do run a system that is really fun to play in for a player like her. So I think that because I will tell you, Eddie, OU was not the highest bidder in this. Because I think a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, OU just spent the most money. They spent a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. They definitely put together a really great offer for her. But, Texas Tech, South Carolina, it's my understanding a lot of those programs maybe threw more money at her than OU did. She ultimately chose Oklahoma because she likes the style of play. She likes Jennie Baranczyk, and she wants to be a part of what they're building.
And I'm sure that for Jennie Baranczyk and crew, when you're selling the program and showing the steps that they've made here in the first 4 years, that was, as we discussed yesterday, kind of a transcendent moment for Jennie as the head coach at Oklahoma. It also helps when you have what's coming back next season as well. Reagan Beers, Peyton Verhulst, namely.
Yeah, look, you bring those girls back, Reagan and Peyton, especially your two highest scorers, all SEC players this year. You bring those two back, Sahara Williams, who had just a monster game the other night against Iowa. This is a team that goes from, they made the Sweet 16, that's a good year, to the expectations next year are Final Four. That's how good this group can be. They go into that next tier, and that's a lot to put on Chavez and coming in and being the type of player that we expect her to be. But they truly believe this is a girl that can come in and maybe be their leading scorer next year, run the point for them. And you saw some of the highlights, running up there. And you have the stats, but she was phenomenal.
Averaged 35.3 a game as a senior, led Lubbock Monterey to the first state title in the school's history, going 37-5, 926 points career-wise for Aaliyah Chavez at Lubbock Monterey. And, I think that she kind of mentioned it during the ESPN ceremony this afternoon when she made her announcement, George. This is a player that, I think here over the last couple years, as her name got out there in the recruiting world, she was somebody that is kind of seen in the Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers, transcendent type player that she's pretty familiar with the expectations that are going to come as the number one player in the country.
And that's why, places like Jordan Brand got involved and why Oklahoma, continued to recruit her, because they knew that this is a player that can change your program and bring attention to it and bring attention to your school. And so I think that's why. And you look at her, she could do it all, but she's really known as just a pure shooter. I mean, she can really light it up from three.
There's another name that has been brought up when you're talking about comparisons, and it's a lofty comparison, but it's Caitlin Clark.
Which is, I'm not going to go there just yet, because we're
I'd be
talking
talking out of my ass if I said it, but I'm just regurgitating what we've heard.
It is. She's truly that type of a player that people think she has that kind of a ceiling. Now, Caitlin Clark might go on to be the greatest women's basketball player we've ever seen. So I don't think
the
we're
Angel
there
Reese
yet.
people are going to be in the comment section.
But I do think that she's somebody that is going to be really, really good for Oklahoma. You looked it up. Highest rated recruit Oklahoma's landed since Courtney Parrish.
And that obviously in 2005. So we're talking about 20 years. And, I don't have a barometer for this. I would have to ask somebody that has covered the team, certainly longer than we've been probably alive. But this seems like maybe one of the biggest days, biggest 24-hour periods in the history of Oklahoma women's basketball. I don't think that's crazy to say.
Yeah, I think we could certainly look up, in 4 years from now when she's finishing up her career at Oklahoma and say, she changed the program. Like, that's the type of player. And the thing is yes, she's one player, but when you bring in a talent like that, you're going to attract other talent.
Sure.
And we were talking about, their recruiting class is really strong.
So she's joining in the 2025 class. She'll be joining Keziah Lofton out of Bethany, who had a state championship career just up the road at Oklahoma City, as well as Brooklyn Stewart out of Colorado Springs, both top 100 players. We're talking about a class. Now you're adding in the number one player in the country. I think that anybody that watches this show kind of knows what that spells.
Yeah, exactly. And then you add on top of what they've been able to do in the portal over the last couple of years. They've been aggressive. And they haven't brought in a ton of players, but they've brought in good players. Lexi Keys a couple years ago, who's been a huge contributor, starter a year ago, is going to play a lot in the game, here on Saturday. And then Reagan Beers, you get the number one player in the portal a year ago, and then you turn around and you get the number one player, the number one recruit in the country this year. So they've done a heck of a job. I would assume they're going to add some players through the portal. We were talking about it. They lose 5 players just as seniors. Wouldn't be shocked if they lost a player or two to the portal, though they've been really good at player retention, especially their top players. But I think you're going to see them be aggressive in the portal. They're pretty guard heavy right now. I think they need to probably look at adding a center or a forward that
somebody
can
in the front court that could help Reagan Beers, obviously.
Exactly, because you saw Liz Scott. She's been phenomenal coming off the bench. I mean, that's a starter level player that you've got coming off the bench. You got to be able to maybe find somebody that can, kind of play that same role. You're losing Skylar Van, who's obviously been spectacular for you, but that core group coming back, and then you add a player like Chavez, and as well as some of the other freshmen you're bringing in, it's going to be a pretty salty group for Jennie Baranczyk.
I would imagine, too, with the group that is coming back next season, you're going to start seeing Oklahoma get those opportunities that some of those others, maybe they just simply haven't been able to get. And I'm talking about in the preseason, the non-conference portion of the season. Not sure how the schedule would work out, but I would imagine that ESPN's going to want somebody like an Aaliyah Chavez, as well as the group coming back with Reagan Beers and Peyton Verholz, to be in some of those preseason non-conference type tournaments or showcases, whatever you want to call it.
Don't be surprised if Oklahoma's ranked in the top 5 heading into next season. Like that's the kind of team we're talking about next year, and the expectations it's going to be around this group. And you're right, they're going to be on TV a lot more. And I would assume the Lloyd Noble is going to be pretty filled up for some big games. And, the attendance has been pretty good this year. I think that fans have showed up for this team. We saw it yesterday. It was just a sensational crowd. But I would expect it to be, I don't know if you remember, Eddie, the Sherry Cole days back in 2007, 2009. Baylor would come to town and be like a top 5 game, and that place was sold out. I mean, there was not an empty seat. I think we're getting close to that type of atmosphere for Oklahoma.
Tremendous day for Jennie Baranczyk and the Oklahoma basketball program. On the heels of what was a massive day yesterday, obviously getting a spot in the Sweet 16. We do know that they will be playing Connecticut. Paige Beckers ties her career high with 34 points against South Dakota State on Monday night. So the date is set, 4:30 on Saturday, Sweet 16 in Spokane, Washington.
Yeah, on ESPN, I believe. So national TV, again, I think they're 14.5-point underdogs right now.
Sure.
So
you were telling me before we started that Charlie Cream has done a power ranking, actually has UConn number 1 going into the Sweet 16.
Yeah, they're playing unbelievable basketball right now. I think there's probably about 4 teams that I would say could win the national title this year, and it's UConn, South Carolina, UCLA, and Texas.
Sure.
Now that Juju Watkins unfortunately
terrible
had the
injury.
ACL injury, but UConn is playing really good basketball. And you talk about a group, Paige Beckers, and what she's done for women's college basketball, but this is her final year.
Sure.
You know, I don't think she's going to be an easy out. So OU's going to have to play their best game of the season if they want to advance.
I thought it was pretty funny at the end of the Connecticut game. You know, it's such a big deal that Oklahoma made the Sweet 16. Jennie's getting over that hump of getting to the Sweet 16 or the second weekend. 31st consecutive Sweet 16 for Gino Auriemma and the Connecticut.
When's the last time they didn't make the Elite Eight, I wonder?
It's a great question.
It's probably been a long time.
It's been a long time. Well, I say that. I want to say maybe
they got
2
bounced.
years ago when they got bounced before
Paige was
when Paige had
hurt.
the ACL injury.
Yeah, that may be right. But
Which, you know, if you're starting to look at the Spokane Regional, Juju Watkins and Kansas State. Now, USC, after the injury on Monday night, they just completely kicked ass. That was awesome.
Yeah.
But you never know. That was an injury that certainly affects Oklahoma if they were able to get through Connecticut. You got to worry about Connecticut first, though.
I think the winner of the OU UConn game is probably going to reach the Final Four. That's how good. Because I think
USC is still really damn good.
I think they are too. But when you don't have the best player in the country
Sure.
playing for you, it's going to be tough. And especially if they have to go up against somebody like a Paige Beckers. But I think Oklahoma's playing really good basketball right now. I think they can give UConn a run for their money. I'm certainly not picking OU to win that game. But if they were to somehow beat UConn, I just think that they could maybe get to the next one.
Monumental day for Oklahoma women's basketball. Congratulations to Jennie Baranczyk and crew, because as George kind of laid out, I think that just Oklahoma just in general being in the discussion, that's great.
Yeah.
You're doing something well. To actually land her, unbelievable. Aaliyah Chavez, the #1 player in the country, commits to Oklahoma. Wanted to jump in studio here for an instant reaction. And thank you to our friends over at Roback. Thank you to George Stoya as well for just being here and being alive.
You're welcome.
For George and I'm Eddie. We'll see you here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.